We're going to continue this theme of racial stereotypes. This time, let's take a look at another group that's often misrepresented in the media, the Middle Eastern community. Negative stereotypes are intensifying as anti-Muslim rhetoric is growing. While Iranian-American actor and comedian Maz Jobrani is doing his part to try and change that distorted image. He's appeared on hit TV shows like Grey's Anatomy, Curb Your Enthusiasm, True Blood, and The Tonight Show. Jobrani's hilarious material is spot on when it comes to stereotypes of Muslims and very effective in promoting better understanding.
But no, guys, really, it is exciting to be here. And like I said, you guys are doing a lot culturally, and it's amazing. And it helps change the image of the Middle East in the West. Like, a lot of Americans don't know a lot about us, about the Middle East. I'm Iranian and American. I'm there. I know that I've traveled here. There's so much. We laugh, right? People don't know we laugh. When I did the Axis Evil comedy tour, it came out on Comedy Central. I went online to see what people were saying about it. I ended up on a conservative website. One guy wrote another guy, said, I never knew these people laughed. Think about it. You never see us laughing in American film or television, right? Maybe like an evil, like, whoa, whoa. I will kill you in the name of Allah. Whoa. But never like, ha, 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 ha. We like to laugh. We like to celebrate life. And I wish more Americans would travel here. I always encourage my friends to travel, see the Middle East. There's so much to see, so many good people. And it's vice versa. And it helps stop problems of misunderstanding and stereotypes of happening.
So true. Well, his 2015 memoir, I'm Not a Terrorist, but I've played one on TV, details life growing up as an Iranian-American and his struggles working in Hollywood. Jobrani says he and his fellow Middle Eastern American entertainers are often typecast in the stereotypical roles of villains and terrorists. In his bold new comedy film, Jimmy Westwood, American Hero, he parodies these stereotypes and shows that people of Middle Eastern descent can also be leaders, heroes, and most importantly, just normal human beings. Here with me now is Maz Jobrani. Maz, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, May.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having
You're
me.
hilarious. I mean, in so many ways. But I mean, it's so nice to see when comedy can address really serious issues, right, of stereotypes and racism.
Yeah, absolutely. I think comedy, I've been a fan of comedy since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Eddie Murphy's when I was a kid.
Yep.
And I wanted to be like him. But then once I started doing stand-up about 18 years ago, I started listening a lot more and watching a lot more of Richard Pryor, George Carlin, some of these guys who were getting political.
The old school guys.
The old school guys, but they got political and they had social commentary. And I think that comedy can really do a good job of that. That's why a show like The Daily Show is so great now, because there's constant social and political commentary going on.
And it's educational, right? I mean, because you're sending a message out in the form of laughter, but it definitely resonates that way, even better sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny, I was on a panel one time with the comedian D.L. Hughley, and I always quote him. He said that comedy is like giving people their medicine, but in orange juice.
That's perfect. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so they don't taste it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think a lot of times people are more open to listening to a message that comes through comedically as opposed to just listening to a politician speak.
Totally agree.
Right away, you're biased against what they're going to say.
Exactly.
But when you're there laughing at a comedy club or at a theater, you might not even realize that the guy's sending a message until later on in the car. You go, oh, wait, he was trying to get a point across.
And you actually remember it because it was so dang funny, right?
And I think one of the more important things, too, is as a comedian and an actor of Middle Eastern descent, for me, it's that, comedians and actors from that part of the world in America, it's a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
When I first started 18 years ago, there weren't any other Middle Eastern comedians. There was a handful of us.
Right.
Now there's a lot more. So the thing that's interesting has been, I think it's important for audiences to come to a show and sit with an audience with people from that background and laugh with them. I think that beyond just the comedian on stage, they can look around the room and see, oh, wow, there's Iranians laughing, there's Arabs laughing, there's a Muslim laughing, there's a lady in a hijab laughing next to me. I think it blows people's minds.
Well, before we get to talking about how you're trying to break these stereotypes, let's go back a little bit to your childhood. Your family immigrated when you were 6 years old?
Yeah, we were 6 years old, right around the time of the Iranian Revolution.
Right.
We moved from Iran to America.
To Tiburon,
right? Northern California,
in the Bay Area, which is pretty white, isn't it?
It's very white. I'll tell you how white it is, because my dad, being Iranian, He was a self-made millionaire, was a successful man. And I think Iranians, there's a group of Iranians who tend to be very ostentatious.
Yes.
I always say, like now living in Los Angeles, a lot of those Iranians came to Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is ostentatious. Iranians are ostentatious. It's like ostentation on steroids,
Totally.
right? You can see it on that TV show, The Shah's of Sunset, right?
Yes.
It's over the top.
Oh, yeah.
But it's interesting because going to Marin, where it's a rich county, it's a wealthy place, but a lot of the rich people in Marin were a little more subtle with their wealth. So
Right.
they would drive Volvos and Saabs. And here comes my dad from Iran, and he shows up and he buys a Rolls Royce.
Oh,
and I was like, what are you doing, man? It's like, ruining my childhood.
Wow. So was that tough for you, though? I mean, that must have been a cultural
It was very
shock.
tough because when you're a kid, you're trying to blend in. You don't want to stand out as
Right.
a different kid, right?
And then when you're trying to blend in
Yeah.
to a new culture, there's got to be that clash sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
and I really like to push that envelope. Like even my stand-up sometimes, I
Yeah.
like to kind of show the hypocrisy. Like when I did my book, I'm Not a Terrorist, but I Played One on TV.
Yeah.
And on the cover of the book, I intentionally put on a Palestinian keffiyeh, the headgear,
Right.
and I'm holding like a Wile E. Coyote bomb, and I've got an expression on my face like, how did I end up here?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make fun of how Hollywood mixes us up all together. I was
Yeah.
trying to make fun of that. Now, Iranians are very sensitive to not being called Arabs because they just want people to know that Arabs and Iranians are different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I put the cover of the book on my Facebook page and I said, hey, my book's coming out, please check it out. And some Iranian lady sent me an email on Facebook, why are you wearing Arab headgear on the cover of your book? We are not Arabs, we are Persian. And I had to write her back. I was like, calm down, lady. I'm trying to make fun of Hollywood,
Right.
And it was just funny, this back and forth that I had with this lady. And I was trying to point out that, I understand that the world needs to know that we're different. But I feel that your approach to it, this lady's approach, is somewhat racist. You're trying to say we're better.
Right.
Why are you mixing us up with these people, these savages? And I was like, you need to check yourself. Let's really, we are all citizens of the world. And I just like to put that on people sometimes.
Yeah, through your comedy, which is the way to go, honestly. Well, let's talk about your experience in Hollywood because, obviously the show is about how the, minorities are still having their issues and still running into those obstacles, right? For you, you've openly talked about that, you guys are always cast as the villains, the terrorists and all that. So tell me about it. Do you see a change at all, or do you see it getting worse, better?
Well, I think that overall, my thought process is that I think when an immigrant culture comes from another country to America, the first generation that comes, the parents that come, they set up shop and they want their kids to be doctors and lawyers and engineers.
Definitely.
That's it, because that's all they know.
That's all they know.
And they go, look, I fought in a civil war to get you over here.
Right.
You're not gonna be a comedian, right? I don't even know what that means.
Right.
Right.
Your parents probably weren't psyched about that.
They were not at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but what's interesting is though, as we come to America and we assimilate, we realize that you can have a career in the arts. You can have a career in entertainment. And furthermore, we realize that you can have a voice. And I think I'm seeing more and more people from these backgrounds, whether it's Iranians or Arabs or Muslims or even like Asian Americans. Like there's a lot of people that are getting in behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And once we have people behind the scenes, then I think we start telling our stories a little bit better.
Right.
I don't necessarily blame Hollywood because I'm sitting there going, look, if I'm a guy who's never had an experience with, I don't know any Middle Easterners, I don't know Muslims, I don't know Arabs, I don't know Iranians, I'm writing a movie that's taking place during the Iraq War, well, I'm going to make all the Iraqis bad guys because they were the bad guys.
Yeah.
It just makes sense because that's all I know. But if I were an Iraqi and I were writing that same movie, I might sit there and go, wait a minute, I know it's about the Iraq War, but let me show you how this one guy got caught up in the war that was a good guy.
Yeah.
Right? So I do feel that there is some promise, but I think we have a long way to go still.
Yeah, I mean, that you're saying that's one way of doing it, where you get more people behind the scenes to be more of the creators. But you actually took a bolder action on your part to say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to play these roles anymore.
Yeah, what happened was, so early in my career, I did a couple of parts, like 2 or 3 parts where I played a terrorist. And that was just because I thought that's what you got to do. I thought, well, you get an audition, you go on the audition. I didn't realize you could tell your agents and everybody else, no, I don't want to do this. So, and also I had a day job, and I was trying to get out of the day job. So I thought the more of these jobs I get, the more, first of all, I'm making money to help me get out of the day job.
Right.
But secondly, it's leading somewhere for my career. And so I did those. I did a Chuck Norris movie of the week where I played a terrorist, and it was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
I did
Chuck Norris.
Yeah, Chuck Norris. Then I played a terrorist in the TV show 24. And then I realized, I was like, I don't like doing these parts. And there's good and bad to all that, is that I said no, and then the other parts I've gotten have been all over the place. So I've, for example, in the movie The Interpreter, which was a Sidney Pollack film with Nicole Kidman and Sean Penn, I played an Arab American Secret Service agent. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And my ethnicity wasn't even an issue in the movie.
Right.
And then I don't mind, I tell people, I don't mind playing cab drivers or falafel shop owners, because I think they're those people exist, and I've seen them and I've met them.
Yeah,
and,
they're real folks.
yeah, and so, some people think like, oh, that's still stereotyping. But I go, you know what? That's closer to where I want to be. Really, I've just drawn a line on the terrorist thing.
Yeah, which is understandable. But what do you think now? Right now, there's so much anti-Muslim rhetoric, right? And that's pervasive. And talk about stereotypes and like grouping everyone together. It's just, negativity towards just that entire region.
It's one of the dumbest things I've seen in my life. I really think people are stupid when they say stuff like that. I see whether it's Donald Trump talking about it, or his followers or anybody. When you have an attack, let's say like the San Bernardino attacks, and they pledge allegiance to ISIS, and then Donald Trump says we should shut the borders to any Muslims coming in till we figure out what's going on. And it's just, I'm an immigrant. I came during the Iranian Revolution. That's when the hostage crisis happened. I would have been victimized probably under Donald Trump, because he probably, let's just say hypothetically, Donald Trump were president back then. And he said, we're going to shut the doors to any Muslims coming to America because Iranians have taken hostages.
Right.
Well, number one, a lot of the people leaving those countries, people that left Iran to come to America, were trying to get away from that government.
Absolutely.
We didn't support that government.
Right.
We are a lot more pro-American, or let's say pro-Western, and we want our freedoms. We came to America.
Which is the case with a lot of immigrants.
That's what the immigrants are coming for.
They're coming to the land of milk and honey, where there's opportunity and freedom.
Yeah, and listen, in all honesty, we have a big hand in a lot of the disasters that are going on in the Middle East. Like, if we hadn't attacked Iraq to start with, a lot of this stuff might not have happened, might not have played out the way it did.
Yeah.
And so when you have refugees coming to America for an opportunity, I would say a majority of those people are coming because they love the opportunity of America. They are getting away from wars.
Yeah.
Those are people that will be patriotic, that appreciate America. And for us to shut the door and go, no, you guys can't come in, and not look at the specifics of what happened. The guy who carried out that act, or the Orlando shooter, were born in America, or were American citizens. It's mind-boggling to me.
It is. What I found interesting is that you wrote an op-ed, I think it was a column, where you talk about the Italian-American experience in the media. So Sopranos, right? They're a bunch of gangs. It was about the mafia, right? But the reason why that works, there's a balance, was that there was also comedies like Everybody Loves Raymond, a nice Italian-American family.
Yeah.
So you had that nice balance of good and bad, whatever.
Yeah.
But with the Middle Eastern community, there's not that kind of representation.
Well, I think there's a couple things. I think, first of all, I know some people were upset about The Sopranos. Some Italians were upset about it. And like I said, you sit back and you go, well, at least you do have Everybody Loves Raymond, or you do have some other positive people in the media, whether it's actors like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Sure, they play gangsters and what have you, but still, they're worshipped in America. Yeah. So you have that going. I think that the problem with the media and Middle Easterners and Muslims and people from that part of the world is a high percentage of the time when you see us, it's just the negative. We don't have a sitcom. We don't have a show. I'm not sure if the networks are ready for it. I don't know how it would be done. There was a show called Little Mosque on the Prairie that was out in Canada for a little bit. Did well in Canada. They tried to bring it here. It didn't work. I did a pilot a few years ago. It was based on a book called Funny and Farsi. The author is Firouzeh Dumas, and she'd written a story about how her family immigrated to Newport Beach in the early 70s, and they were the only Iranians in Newport Beach. And it was actually a funny show, and we shot the pilot, and it didn't get picked up. It was kind of like Fresh Off the Boat, but with Iranians.
Right.
And so I think the networks are a little risk-averse when it comes to anything that might be too edgy in that way. And
especially now, do you think?
I think so.
Do you think it's a worse situation now because of what we just talked about, because of all of this anti-Muslim rhetoric?
I mean, imagine if you had a family that were like a Muslim family show or something, right? I think if it were mid-season and they're working on it, there's probably even things that you think are not controversial become controversial. Like, for example, in my own stand-up, I do material about the LGBT community, and part of it is I'm trying to push that in front of, I know that there's like Iranians and Arabs at the show, and I try to, my joke is based off of Bruce Jenner becoming Caitlyn Jenner.
Okay.
And I talk about in the material, I go, I actually support it. I go, good for him. He knew he wanted to be a woman. That's amazing. I go, I can't decide what to have for dinner. This guy knew he wanted to be a woman, right? So, but my point I try to make in that joke is I try to talk about how I try to put the mirror in front of them and go, don't judge, just But again, after the Orlando shootings, that material became controversial because I knew that if I brought it up, people would be on edge a little bit. So if you take that now in the bigger picture, and you put it on a TV show, I'm sure the networks probably are a little wary of like, well, what happens if we have a Muslim family and then something like this happens? Now we got to do an episode where the kid's being bullied. So I think they're a little wary of it.
And Hollywood doesn't want to take too many risks, right?
They don't
because
want
it's all about the bottom line.
Bottom line.
But speaking of Hollywood, you made this movie.
I made
Jimmy
a movie.
Westwood,
yeah.
American Hero, which is, kind of making fun of these stereotypes, right?
Yeah, I made a movie, Jimmy Westwood, American Hero. I describe it as the Persian Pink Panther meets Borat.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a silly movie. I co-wrote it with a guy named Amir Ohebsian. We co-wrote it, we co-produced it with the two of us and Ray Mohit, and then and I star in it. And our goal was, listen, growing up in Iran, the first 6 years of my life, but even after that, when I came to America, I was always a big fan of Peter Sellers' Pink Panther.
Great series.
Just loved him. Bumbling idiot.
Totally.
So we wanted to create a character of Middle Eastern descent that was a little bumbling, but saves the day.
All right. Well, we have a clip.
Oh, good.
So why don't we take a look at it?
All right.
Maman, دارم میرم آمریکا.
Mr. Jamshid,
Just call me Jimmy.
what's your occupation?
We are not here to occupy you. We only come in peace.
I think we've got our guy.
Jimmy Westwood, like Clint Eastwood, but Westwood.
Some people turn out to be as dumb as they look.
I'm gonna get crucified for this.
Oh my God, that looks hilarious, honestly.
you.
But here's what I did not know. You had to crowdfund to get some of the financing for this,
Listen, my respect for filmmakers has gone up so high.
Has it?
Yeah.
It ain't easy, is it?
It ain't easy because as a stand-up comedian, you show up, there's a microphone, you tell your jokes.
Right.
Right? You hope to, you do it a lot, you grow a fan base. But you just hope people show up and you can tell your jokes.
Yeah.
Movie making is a whole other level. You write the script, you think you're done, you're like, no, now you need the money. So then to get the money, we started with some crowdfunding. And when I first put it on Indiegogo, it was Indiegogo, I had about 20,000 Facebook fans. So I was like, well, if everybody puts $1, we got $120,000.
Right.
Well, we put it out and nobody was giving any money.
Oh, no.
I think everyone's used to getting free stuff now.
Oh, no.
And then
that must have been kind of crushing.
It was crushing. And then we look at the analytics, and I realized 40,000 of my fans were Egyptian, another 30,000 in Jordan. And I was like, wait a minute, these people aren't even real. I think I was working with a company who was helping me increase my fan base.
Oh.
But I think that they just got some guys in Egypt to just go like this.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? And it's funny.
So you actually had 5 fans.
I had 5 fans, so we made $5, and no, we basically ended up then we did a couple of fundraisers within the crowdfunding. We made a little bit of money there, and that got our seed money.
Okay.
Then we got some investors to put money in, and then we made the movie. And then I thought, well, that's it. Now we've made the movie. Someone's going to distribute it. Then we got into a comedy festival, won a couple of comedy awards, but then we couldn't get a big distributor to help us.
Oh.
And it's funny. Well, here's what's interesting. I thought the biggest obstacle was going to be having a movie with a Middle Eastern lead, an American movie with a Middle Eastern hero. I thought that was the biggest obstacle. The biggest obstacle is just being an independent movie in this environment.
Oh.
Because you're competing against Captain America.
Right.
And then the next week you're competing against X-Men.
Yes.
Then the next week is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And as I'm going through this, I'm like, how many superheroes do we have? And what does that say about us as a society? How insecure are we that we need superheroes?
We do. They need to come save the day.
They got to save the day. I think that our lives are so miserable that we feel like every week there's got to be a hero that I got to go see.
Well, Maz, you might be the next hero then.
I
Who knows,
just
right?
want normal man.
Yeah, well,
You know?
you could be the next American hero, judging
should
from
be,
this
yeah.
this movie. But
Yeah.
congratulations on
Thank
getting
you.
it done.
Yeah, I know.
And
it's huge.
good luck with that. But it
Thank
was
you.
so great having you on the show.
Thank you,
Thanks so
May.
much. That
Yeah.
was really fun.
Thank you.
All right.